Hey, I'd like to live to 100, better yet, 110 or 120. Many people label me a loser since I lack a family, see zero friends, live with my parents, and lack any established job. In fact, I'm a hated lifetime social outcast primarily due to an autism like condition. This social condition is impossible for me to overcome, and believe me, I've tried for years and I've tapped out. However, I have much to be thankful for, such as my intelligence, reasoning ability, eyesight, hearing, functioning in all four limbs, computer access, food, shelter, and peace. Some want to die due to temporary problems like breaking up with a significant other, losing a job, or a failure made public. Desire to die in such cases has no justification. Yet others want to live, although suffering a permanent and severe problem like advanced Alzheimer's disease or being quadriplegic. Or Ray, a former classmate who went nearly blind besides needing over 6 hours of kidney dialysis every day to stay alive. Or Helen Keller, who was both blind and deaf. But these people had/have loving families and a network of friends to associate with and help them. Hence the motivation for soldiering on. But being forced to combine my problems with theirs would make death highly desirable. That's because, besides the unpleasantness of the situation, it would not be life, but a living death or zombie type condition. Consider that you cannot buy love nor friendship. You cannot make people care about you. What often happens to isolated people with severe and permanent handicaps is being neglected for consecutive hours or days despite suffering great emotional and or physical pain. Some are victims of getting beaten up, and most are regularly prevented from doing things they want and forced into things they don't want. This happens in home care, hospice, hospital, nursing home, any situation. As for the chronically or permanently bedridden, lacking adequate family friend support systems, beside neglect, beatings, and disrespect they'll likely experience, many of those in charge neglect to change their bodily waste, so feces and urine mound up on and around the patient. Also, those with zero mobility need to be regularly shifted to prevent open wound bed sores. Negligence sometimes allows flies to invade those sores from which maggots begin to crawl. Worse yet, chronic care and end-of-life care are extremely expensive, leaving patients and or their families with massive bills as insurance companies often refuse to cover all or most of it. Even more outrageous is keeping comatose patients' bodies alive on ventilators for many years. This is not an extended sleep like Rip Van Winkle. Unlike this archetypical character, less than 1% of those suffering long-term coma or unresponsive wakefulness syndrome make a so-called good recovery. Unlike sleeping people, all of whom naturally shift several times a night and occasionally dream, comatose patients never shift nor dream. They all suffer severe muscle deterioration and all require unnatural devices to stay so-called alive. And unlike Rip Van Winkle, who freely walks away after reviving, either said patients, their families, and or society is flooded with astronomically high medical bills. A former preacher related his time of previously working in a hospital. In that hospital, it was discovered that female comatose patients were being regularly subjected to sexual intercourse by hospital orderlies. So they had a meeting. In it, they decided to neither involve the police nor even fire the workers. Their solution was to put the comatose female patients on birth control. In the case of me becoming a comatose, either I would eventually die in that state and my charities would be robbed of all the money that would have gone to them, or I would awake with extra brain damage in addition to the damage I was born with and be bankrupt, crippled, and have nobody to care for me or about me. So, upon a confirmed diagnosis of dementia, Alzheimer's, Lewy body, which the actor Robin Williams had, etc., quadriplegia, comatosis, etc., it would be important for me to quickly die. So my spirit would be set free, which death would paradoxically be more life than the living death. The only reasons that people outside of family members or friends help keep those with nearly non-functioning brains or bodies so-called alive is to drain them of all their money like vampires draining blood, have a sense of superiority and power over others, or both. The only reasons that family members or friends help keep those with nearly non-functioning brains or bodies, air quotes, alive, is irrational fear of death, lack of maturity to face the inevitable, and or having a sense of superiority and power over others. Think about it! Keeping people alive against their wishes by having devices inserting into them is a form of endless rape. And think about it! Family pets are allowed the dignity to go quickly and peacefully, but humans are not? Quoting Confucius, humankind differs from the animals only by a little, and most people throw that away. Even men facing life imprisonment without possibility of parole have more freedom, as they can somewhat move about, read books, and send and receive letters. As far as godliness, so-called end-of-life care, death care, it is the exact opposite, as God is reflected through nature, and death care is the most unnatural thing possible. Read Romans chapter 120 to 22. In fact, death care robs society by causing health insurance to be more expensive overall and have a smaller percentage covered by insurance than would be if death care wasn't bleeding the system. And every zombified patient takes up a hospital bed and diverts staff from attending to someone in extreme medical emergency whom we know can be helped and needs it immediately. So there should be a universal law that nobody shall be perpetuated in a comatose or vegetative state longer than 1 year. For adults who would desire to go expeditiously after a tragedy such as coma, dementia, paralysis, or quasi-unresponsive wakefulness, beware of a so-called power of attorney for healthcare. Its deceptive language states that you have power when you actually would be giving up your power. In fact, drawing up a living will would be imperative. Copies of a living will should be given to whoever might likely find you in dire straits and who also is empathetic to your beliefs. And avoid all those who oppose your beliefs, if your beliefs are righteous. Cards stating that you have a living will, along with a do not resuscitate directive, should be carried in a purse if a woman, or in a wallet if a man. My upcoming post, Wakes and Funerals, shall be a companion piece to complement this present video.